Warning: Armstrong Industries may contain adult and disturbing material. We strongly advise that it may not be suitable for young listeners. Thank you. Inside Armstrong Industries building, Ricky came into Lee's office to get a job there, as he wants to help save the world. Lee was unsure. Then Nadia opened the door and urgently said, "Lee, there's something you need to see." So Lee, Ricky and Nadia ran out the office into the main room, with Callie, Oscar and Norville looking at the computer. There was Morlax saying, "Hello, Lee Armstrong and his gang. I told you I'd come back. What's going to happen is, I will access the gateway portal. I will destroy everything you love and rob the world. The 2 space capsules will hollow out the Earth's magnetic core. I am coming back." So the computer turned off. Ricky asked, "What the hell?" Callie explained, "Morlax, he's like a space thief." Lee said, "This is bad, especially if he brings the army." So Lee typed on the computer. What appeared on screen is 2 space capsules in Blythe, one on each side. One of them is near Asda, where the roundabout is. So Nadia's phone rings, so she answered it. PC Gary Tucker in police station was on the other side of the phone and said, "Nadia, there's those 2 spaceships above Blythe. Is there anything we can do about that?" So Nadia replied, "It's Morlax. He's coming down to Earth with his troopers. We've been targeted. Get every police, cover the whole city. Go to the people's houses, let them know. They're going to be fine. We're sorting it." Gary said, "No problem." So after the phone hang up, Lee said, "Right, Oscar and Nadia, yous go to one of the capsule. I'll give yous jetpacks to get on." Ricky said, "Me and Callie will go to the other side, making sure that the Earth is still in place." Norville said, "Me and Lee will stay here to report in case Morlax shows up here." Lee said, "Alright, let's get moving." So Callie, Ricky, Nadia and Oscar were given jetpacks by Lee. So they ran out of the base. Lee and Norville typed away on the computer, keeping an eye on the ships. Later on, Callie and Ricky ran into PC Gary Tucker in the street. So Gary said, "Look, I got every police officers making sure everyone's okay. I want to help to save the world." Callie said, "Fine, those ships are replacing the Earth's core with an engine. Morlax is stealing our planet." Gary said, "Please say you're joking." At the capsule where Asda is, Nadia and Oscar have flew up onto the capsule. They found a door to get inside. There was 2 masked men operating the controls, so Nadia and Oscar shot them dead. Oscar goes on a communicator and said, "Lee, we're inside one of them. Tell us how to deactivate it." So Lee replied, "There's a switch that releases the core, then switch off the tow rope, then land it." So after Norville explains each buttons to press, Nadia and Oscar presses few buttons and pushing the lever. Norville smiled away and said, "At least things are working out nicely." Suddenly there was a sound of gunshot, so Lee looked and he sees blood dripping down from Norville's forehead with a pained face. Then he falls dead on the ground. So Lee turned his head around and Morlax lowered his gun and said, "Death is reassurance." Lee shouted, "You bastard! You didn't need to kill my friend." Morlax said, "Well, your team are tampering with my technology. I am not having that." So 3 masked men came in and Morlax tells them to tie Lee up. Meanwhile, Callie, Ricky and Gary have climbed inside a pod, shooting all 3 masked men inside. Callie pressed few buttons as she understands the basics. Back at the base, Lee has both arms chained up to the wall, wondering what Morlax is doing. So he shows Lee the remote type of device and said, "This is gateway opening device. I can let anyone who I want out and set a location to open it." Lee was hoping Morlax was joking, So then Morlax asked, "Have you heard of a story of an American man that travelled to London in England who got attacked by a werewolf, causing him to become a werewolf under the next full moonlight? The man called David Kessler." Lee thought, "Oh shit." The portal opened at Asda car park in Blythe. The sound of roaring was getting louder, and there was David's werewolf crawling out of the portal, running around the street. There's people running. One of the men got ripped to shreds by the wolf. Nadia and Oscar have landed the capsule on the ground and turned it off. They hug, jumping up and down as they're happy with the success. Nadia asked, "After this is over, we could go for McDonald's or something." Oscar replied, "Aye, that'll be nice." So Nadia pushed the button, the door slid open. Nadia and Oscar stepped out and walked down the street. Oscar noticed a mutilated corpse on the path and wondering what caused it. Suddenly, the werewolf jumped onto Nadia. She screamed as the werewolf clawed her abdomen with blood splash. Oscar shouted, "No, Nadia!" who's burst into tears, watching werewolf mauled Nadia to death and biting her head off. So Oscar ran away. Other capsule landed. Callie, Ricky and Gary opened the door. They ran down the street. Suddenly, there was 5 or 6 masked men shooting, so Callie picked up her gun and shooting them, while Ricky and Gary took cover by the trees. Meanwhile, Morlax was shocked what he saw on the computer screen. Both capsules are off. He shouted, "No! I should have realised that team of yours are very clever." Lee said, "We've learned from the best." So then Callie, Oscar, Ricky and Gary burst into the base, holding their guns. They shot all Morlax's troopers. Callie grabs the key and set Lee free from the chains, while Oscar pointed his gun at Morlax, saying, "You will die for this, you bastard." Morlax said, "You're weak. You can't kill the clever one." Lee stood up, raising his gun at Morlax and said, "I can. This is for Norville." So he shot Morlax in the head. The blood poured down from his forehead and he fell on the ground. Everyone looked at the other side of the desk and sees Norville's body. Callie puts her hands in her mouth. Ricky hugged her. Gary was shocked, and Oscar looked down with sadness. Lee constantly rubbing his tears from his face with his hand. So then he looked and asked, "Where's Nadia like?" Oscar was struggling to answer, so then he said, "I'm sorry. Nadia's dead. That werewolf killed her." So everyone was upset. So then Lee picked up gateway opening device. The gateway opened where David's werewolf is. He got sucked through the portal. After he disappeared, the portal closed. Lee reached into Morlax's pocket. He pulled out a dark blue star with light blue star-shaped line inside it, with white cross on top of it, making electronic buzzing noise. Lee realised it's a soul of Gateway. The team was confused, so Lee ran into his office with the object. He opened the chest and he found dark grey sword, so he placed the star-shaped Gateway soul on the desk. Lee raised the sword and stabbed it. Then the smoke sprayed. Lee explained, "I nicked a sword during my space travel. It's really deadly." The next morning, as a news reporter talks about the 2 space capsules, masked men, and werewolf events in Blythe on BBC News Live, Ricky hugs Callie, who is filled with misery. Lee is packing up Nadia's and Norville's personal belongings in a box. Oscar is on a computer updating personal files. He typed on Nadia Mori's record, deceased, then gave her a final logout. Then he typed on Norval Redmond's record, deceased, and gave him a final logout as well. Then Lee, Callie, Oscar and Ricky gathered, as their tears rolling down from their eyes, grieving. Lee said, We must go on. We'll avenge Nadia and Norville. They'd want us to keep fighting. They'll never be forgotten.